Hi, everyone, and welcome to the CTE Inspired Conference for 2021. My name is Katie Crump. I'm an agriculture teacher and FFA advisor at Scott County High School located in Georgetown, Kentucky. And I'm going to be working with you in a session today called Designing Your Course with the End in Mind. So to go over a little bit about what we're going to be doing today, we're basically going to look at what are the goals of your program, what do you want to accomplish, and also what are some things that we can do with iCEV in order to make those things happen for you. So before we get started, I just want to talk a little bit about who I am, what my background is. So I'm a first-year agriculture teacher, again at Scott County, located in Georgetown, Kentucky. I just graduated from the University of Kentucky this past spring in 2020. I'm also a part-time agriculturalist, so I do farm with my ag teacher and some friends, and then I also have a family farm that I help work on with my sister and father as well. So before we go through, just kind of think about some things that are important to you as we go through this session. So what's your background? What's your education like? And what are your experiences in? What are your passions? What's your support system like? So family, friends, and also administrators and support staff at your school. And what are your goals? So what really do you want your program to look like within this next year? And what can we do to get you there? On the opposite end of that spectrum, what are your weaknesses? What are your stresses? What's your work-life balance look like? Are you with a new family or trying to get grad school done? What are some of those things looking like for you? And are those a part of your stresses and weaknesses? And then what are your fears? So what are those things that are keeping you from accomplishing your goals? The purpose of this session is to kind of look at some different ways that iCEV can help you and how it can help you manage some of those things that you might be struggling with. So for me, this is a first year, and also for you, it's probably a first year as well, having to utilize digital learning platforms in order to get some stuff done. COVID put all teachers back to square one, and everyone feels like a first year teacher again. iCEV became kind of a digital learning life raft for most people that are utilizing that software, especially when you're using it for multiple different types of learners, online, hybrid, in-person, etc. Okay, so we're going to kind of look at how can you effectively use that to benefit your students' transition after graduation, your program's impact on students, and your department's performance. Okay, in order to do that, I've got it broken down into a few sections that we can discuss. So we're going to start with thinking with the end in mind. So what is the end goal? What do your administrators want? At the end of the day, the value of your program is going to become some kind of data, some kind of tangible number that they can take to their superiors and say, look at what they're doing, or so that they can look at you and say, what are we doing? Okay. So how can you prove your program's value to your students, the school, and community? You can focus on career and college readiness, just like you're already doing, and teaching professional and technical skills, and also provide that data that's in your favor with state end of pathway assessments or industry certifications, which are the nice part of iCEV is that those are included with your sessions, okay? So for example, I want my upperclassmen in the animal science pathway to be transition ready. So for Kentucky, that means they need to either pass an end of state assessment or they need to receive a valid industry certification. So first you'll want to check and see what's valid in your state. So you can also click on this and see what that looks like for Kentucky and get in touch with your state staff in order to find what it is for you. You'll go to iCEV and check out the certification playlist options. And you're going to pick the one that aligns best for your course. So there's a multitude on there that you could pick that kind of align with almost every class that you can think of. So just go in there and decide which one's best for you and add it to your certification playlist. Next, we're going to start with using iCEV to plug into your curriculum map. So we're going to start with our standards. So you can find all your national FFA, AF&R standards here at the Dropbox link. You can also find your own state standards if that's what you choose to use instead. Either way, it's whatever you choose to do and whatever you're required to do. So what are your state graduation requirements? Find those and see what that looks like for you. And then do students have to meet certain requirements to be considered college or career ready? So example, benchmark on ACT, et cetera, et cetera. So when you look at those standards, and I'll kind of show you what that is here in just a second. So this is an example from animal science. So one of these Standard groups is design and provide proper animal nutrition to achieve desired outcomes for performance, development, and reproduction or economic production. So here you can see it's broken down into 3 different sections with this chartreuse color. And then beneath that, there's about 6 to 9 standards that go along with that specific portion of the overall standard. Okay. So what you can do is you'll go to those standards and go to your state standards if you're choosing to mix and match, or if you're just choosing to do one or the other, and pull what's important. Okay. So with these standards, what's going to happen is each group is going to become one unit. All right. So with the AFNR standards, it's a little bit easier to read because they're already broken down and color coordinated. So the dark green means that that is the overall standard. And then there's 3 substandards with specific measurements underneath in this light green. Okay. So for our purposes, what will happen is standards will be grouped together logically with your guidance documents, including AFNR. Use that to your advantage. So each group of those will become one unit. Each standard underneath of there will be a unit or a lesson topic. And the number of lessons is up to you. If you want to spend, if you want to do 3 different lessons on how to use a Pearson square, that's totally up to you and whatever your students need at the time. If it's not already done so in your guidance documents from the state or national standards, you're going to need to make a logical progression of your units. So does it make sense for your students to go over nutrition and digestion before they know external anatomy and basic terms? Probably not. So it's kind of up to you to determine what's a logical flow of information for them to understand and build upon and scaffold for future lessons. Then you're going to want to get organized. So I did make a little template in here just to help me out this past year, and if you want to use it, you're more than welcome to as well. So I have it broken down. I include the course certification that I want to use within that course. I have my unit title, so nutrition and digestion. How long do I think it's going to take? Let's say 15 days, 25 days, whatever. And then you can actually plan out your day, so you can kind of use it as a planner as well. So for the week of whatever, I'm going to be covering these standards. This is what I'm going to do in the classroom. And if you choose to use iCEV in those units, you can also go ahead and note which one of those unit activities do you want to use, okay? And that can be found on your industry certification that you added on there, or in a general course, okay, which includes a lot more than what's tested on the certification playlist, okay? Next, we're going to try to set up our iCEV into your classroom. So it is pretty user-friendly. It's pretty easy to navigate and get around as well. So it shouldn't be a problem to get your students set up in there. Okay. So for example, your animal science course, based on the standards, you've already got this all set up. And you're going to go to the certification playlist that you picked for the class. So for animal science, let's say that I picked the Elanco Animal Science Basics. Okay, so this is what that certification playlist looks like. These are all the things that they're going to have to cover in order to take the certification test. Is it everything in your class? Probably not. If you cover livestock judging, you can see it's not on here. Okay, you can see it's not in here. So this is, again, very basic stuff. So kind of go through and see what works with the units that you're teaching. So for the example we're doing for digestion and nutrition, there's 2 different modules that go with that unit. So you can click on View, go to Instructional Materials. You can print these off, or if you're doing online, it's really easy to use with Google Classroom, okay? So all of these things are kind of whatever you want to do. If you want to infuse them into your current curriculum and what you have written, that's totally your prerogative. I would strongly recommend at least printing off the assessment questions, if nothing else, just because most of these they're going to see again for the industry certification. And if that's your long-term goal, then they definitely need to see that at least. After that, if it doesn't look like you can use anything on the CERT playlist for a certain unit, for example, livestock judging for animal science, you can always include materials from an iCEV course or judging leadership playlist for that class. So for example, livestock judging we often talk about in animal science as part of breeding and genetics or animal selection, but we're not testing it on the certification for the industry cert. But you can still use iCEV's multitude huge libraries of CDE training teams. Okay, you can do that. So you would just click on your course, customize it, do judging, and simply add in the things that you want to use: dairy evaluation, meats evaluation, etc., etc. The world is your oyster. You just have to add it to your certification playlist. Now, you add it to the course certification playlist and not the certification playlist. The certification playlist is as is, so it will always be those same modules. You can't change that. So you'll probably need to set up two different iCEV portions for your class. One that is the certification portion, and one that is your actual classroom using things, okay? So that's where you would put in your extra materials, etc., was in the actual course, not the certification playlist. Speaking of certifications, here's kind of what that process looks like for ag teachers. So you're going to add your students to the iCEV playlist for your certification and also for your course if you choose to use more than what's on the certification. Students have to complete the assessment questions on the digital platform for each module unit. This is a just general note. They can take the final assessment questions for each module and still unlock the exam. However, I would say go ahead and take all of them because it gives them more exposure to the questions they're going to see. Once those all have a green passing, the certification's unlocked. The teacher then contacts iCEV to get testing vouchers and pay for the exams, and then the teacher will have to schedule and proctor the exam. The certification exams are about 90 to 100 questions. They take a really long time. Once they get to the end, they'll click finish, and they're going to come to a page where it tells them they passed or they didn't meet passing, and they can take it again. Since they have to pay every time they take it, we want them to pass for the first time. Okay, so a common thing that we see, teacher gets to the end of the year and decides to have students take the certification. Students go to the playlist, start taking those questions over and over until they get a passing for the section. I don't remember this. We talked about that in September. Okay, we want to avoid that situation. They manage to guess and get all passing. They pay for the test. They take it. They fail it. We don't want to do that. Okay, don't let your students fail because they're underprepared or overwhelmed. All right, chunking and pacing is going to be the best approach to a higher pass rate and have more students qualified to take the certification exam. So if you are doing nutrition and digestion, go ahead and use those assessment questions. Use the labeling, use the diagrams, use anything, and just plug it into that unit. That way it's fresh in their mind while they're learning the content at the time instead of learning it all again within a 1 week span before the certification. I do have 10 quick tips for the certification to kind of help you if you need some guidance in this area. So the first 4 are just use what they give you in the certification playlist. Use the assessment questions, the diagrams, the vocabulary, and the videos. All of those materials turn into questions they're going to see on the assessment questions in the actual exam. There's multiple choice, true, false, matching, labeling, diagramming, all that kind of stuff. It's all on there, and they can all have seen those before if you just give them the materials. Tip number 5 is to make sure your students keep a class notebook. Keep and print all the materials that you want. If you want them to practice assessment questions and use them as a quiz, print off the quiz, make them take it, and check what's wrong and give it back to them and make them keep it for the end of the year. That way they can use it to review later on. They can use it to review for the CERT test, a state CTE test, or even your final exam in class. Number 6, have students answer all the assessment questions per module. Okay, do it when it's fresh in their mind as well. They're more likely to get a pass status on the module the first time if they take it when they learn it instead of later on when it's not in their mind anymore. And it also prevents you from last-minute scrambling to get them to pass those modules and unlock their test at the last minute. Create and utilize study and review activities in the days leading up to the exam, so you can pull questions from the review module and pull questions from each of the other modules as well, including vocabulary and labeling, true, false, etc. You can also go ahead and pull some stuff from your own course as well. Use it as a review. Use the certification as your final if that's what you choose. And try to do a variety of activities, maybe over the span of 2 or 3 days, because that is a lot of content to get through. So if you can give them a little bit more time to review and prepare, the better off they're going to be for their test. You're also going to want to communicate with stakeholders about what the certification is. So let your admin know in the fall your intentions for the test and what they mean. Contact local employers and connect them with certified students that are on the career path and not necessarily secondary education. Communicate with your parents the importance of the tests and what they mean for your student. You can use iCEV's ready to go information for certifications. They have videos, they have some infographics for you. You can use those. It's all ready to go. Nothing for you to do. All you have to do is hand them out. Tip number 9. Okay, this is one of my more important ones. Don't wait till the last minute to schedule that exam. Check with your department head, your counselors, your administrators for the testing schedule. March to May is a really busy time for testing. ACT, state tests, AP exams, etc. Make them aware that you need to get in that schedule, especially if your testing certifications are in multiple different classes and you've got kids in all of those classes, okay? You're going to want to shoot for mid-March to early May. The earlier you schedule this, the better off you will be. Don't try to test those students the last 2 weeks of school because they're checked out and they're done for the year, okay? You're also going to want to communicate with your support staff for students that may need help during the certification, like extra time, audio, visual, etc. And number 10, keep accurate records. You're going to want to keep track of student data in a spreadsheet per school year with the name, the grade, the classes they've taken, what state tests or certifications they took, and their scores or pass-fail. Okay, why? Why do we need to keep these? We have TEDS data here in Kentucky. I'm not sure if that applies in other states or not. We have TEDS data that has all of this. Why? Because you can prove your program impact to your current and your future administration and staff. The future one being important, okay? Your past performance data is going to help sell yourself and promote yourself to administrative counselor turnover, okay? You want your new principal, you want your new counselors and new staff to understand the value of your program. You can also use it as a recruitment tool for your future students and provide those to their future schools or employers. So just an overview of what was covered in this session. We want to think with the end in mind, what do I want for my students and my administrators? We're going to use our class standards to create logical curriculum and then select a certification that goes with that. We're going to use certification information and module stuff inside those unit lessons that are related and have them take the online module assessments in real time. We're going to schedule testing and review materials with students, and we're going to proctor the exam and keep accurate records of student performance to promote and defend your program. Okay, so all of this is the very broad overview of how you can utilize iCEV, especially with the certification portion in mind, and infuse that into your curriculum throughout the year instead of panicking or just doing it all at once at the end and overwhelming those students. So I do want to thank you for joining this particular session, and I hope you learned a little bit more than you did before. You will automatically be awarded points for attending this session, and at the end of the conference, you will receive a digital certificate noting how many sessions you attend. I do hope to see you during our live question and answer session right after this. Thank you all for attending, and have a wonderful rest of your conference.